500 and growing.
Podcast.
Dedicated to the underdog, cause I see you. Working on your craft, getting strong, cause I see you. Ready to set it off and on, cause I see you. Correcting all that is wrong, cause I see you.
Hey. So, welcome to the 500 and Growing podcast. My name is Jesus Azteca 500 Sanchez. I'll be your host. And who we have in the building today is Luis Tubens, also known as Logan Lu. Everybody, please welcome Luis Tubens, also known as Logan Lu.
Thank you very much. Please have a seat, everybody. Have a seat. Thank you so much.
Logan Lu and I we're fortunate enough to meet each other at the National Museum of Mexican Art.
Yeah, back then, well, it was a different name.
Yeah, they kept on changing the name.
I mean, identity crisis and all that. But it was the Mexican Fine Arts Center Museum.
There you go.
But now it's the National Museum of Mexican Art.
Yeah, I have your name. And your name and number has never changed, so I have it as that right? Acronym.
Yeah.
It's just like the MFF. So yeah.
It was always a lot of words.
Yeah.
That I had to say. It was like it's a center museum. What's going on there?
You had to take like a drink before you finished the whole name. But we were working there, and yeah, man, you were saying something about like my tours, which was interesting when we were talking.
Yeah. So Jesus and I, you probably have said this on the podcast many times already, but Jesus and I were tour guides at the National Museum of Mexican Art, which is how we met in the education department. And our job was to give tours of La Mexicanidad, which was the permanent collection exhibition. This cat almost started like 3 riots. He was always spitting the truth, but sometimes the groups were just like, damn bro, I just got here, and you're telling me I'm a colonizer and all this other stuff. But
no, yeah, because we would go down like Mesoamerican history and then go into colonization and then go into like the revolution and connecting everything together.
For a lot of people, especially young people, it was the first time them hearing it in that way. And you opened a lot of minds with that, So, yeah, man, I'm thankful for that.
And it was funny because one time I think I was on a field trip and I brought some kids and I started giving a tour and people started following me, like other people from the museum. So I was giving my kids a tour, right?
Yeah.
And so other people started following me. And so Carlos came out and was just like following me. And when I had a break or when I was going to the next thing, he was just like, hey, man, everybody thinks that you work here, bro. Like, chill. So
they'd be like, we ain't paying you, bro. You need to stop saying words out loud.
But it was definitely like a really great a time that we met. And then I started working at another museum and then eventually became a teacher. And
that's right. You MCA? Were you at the MCA for a little bit, right? What were you doing over there?
Same thing.
Okay.
Same thing. Yeah.
How was that? How was that compared to the National Museum of Mexican Art working at the...
Oh man. So you would be in front of like Dan Flavin. Dan Flavin is an artist that uses fluorescent bulbs for his artwork.
Okay.
And so it's kind of like this, where they have like fluorescent bulbs that are covered, but then they shed light on the wall and then they kind of bleed into each other and they make different colors and color palettes.
Oh, word.
So you'd have to be in front of that and be like, this is art. Right?
Talk about it.
Yeah. And be like, yo, you're looking out into the outside and it looks pink. And the reason why it looks pink is because you have all these green fluorescent bulbs. So the artwork is not the bulbs, it's the what is it called? The optical illusion of everything being rose colored outside.
Oh, word.
When we were there, at the National Museum of Mexican Art, we saw the Gelman collection.
Yeah.
That was dope.
Frida Kahlo, Diego Rivera works, as well as some other great masters, Rufino Tamayo, some Orozco, I think Ezequieros was in there. Yeah, there was some really great stuff at that collection. I think we were really blessed. Even though I probably didn't appreciate it at the time, because I'm Puerto Rican, bro.
Yeah.
I don't know if you knew that or not.
No, yeah. For sure.
So, like,
from Logan Square.
You know what I'm saying? So like I'm coming down here, like I'm learning things fresh for the first time. Virgen de qué? What? And to see a lot of these works and to understand these stories and read these stories without kind of like a cultural background, was really amazing, and it was really beautiful, and I think it inspired a lot in me to go and search that within my own culture, within my own group.
Yeah, for sure, man. And so, man, I just remember being like an inch away from a Frida Kahlo or a Diego Rivera, and it's just like we knew the security guards, you know what I'm saying? So they wouldn't say anything when we were that close, and they knew that we weren't gonna mess with it. But it was just like to be able to get that close to it was dope. So what was your childhood like, bro? Where did you grow up?
Yeah, man, childhood was wild, man. I'm born and raised here in the city of Chicago, not too far away from where this podcast is taking place. Logan Square is where I spend the most of my formative years. I always grew up between Logan Square and Humboldt Park, but mostly Logan Square. In Chicago for the first like 20 years of my life, man. I think I already mentioned to you that I'm Puerto Rican, right?
Boricua.
Tu sabes. My father born in Ponce, my mom born here, but her family goes back in Puerto Rico hundreds of years. And they met here in Chicago. They got together, you know what I'm saying? And then I was born. I think my childhood is very similar to a lot of the people that grew up in my generation. With my same type of cultural background, there was a lot of people that were being raised by their grandparents. I was being raised by my grandmother. My mother and father were present, but it was my grandma was the one who was calling the shots with me. Yeah. My grandma was the one who was raising me. She was the one cooking food for me, all that stuff. You know what I'm saying? Yeah,
you started swearing. You knew you had to stop in front of grandma. You know what I'm saying,
man? It's always, man. So I lived with her for until I moved out of Logan Square. Yeah.
And what was it like during the times that you were growing up in Logan Square? Was there like a lot of violence? Because what years were those? Those were like
80s, 90s
and 90s.
Yeah, man. I mean,
that was before gentrification, right?
Of course, bro. I mean, the areas of Lincoln Park and Lakeview, if we're talking North Side, had already been gentrified, and so many of the people that were pushed out were now living in the areas of Humboldt Park and Logan Square. And everywhere in the 80s and 90s in Chicago, and probably a lot of inner cities all over the U.S. was wild, my guy.
Yeah,
I mean, was it violent? I mean, how do you qualify? I mean, it was more violent in other neighborhoods, sure, but like
what I'm saying is that it was a different zone from what it is right now. So like if our audience looks up Logan Square, they're gonna see a whole different planet.
Yeah, man, absolutely. It definitely has flipped. And it flipped after I was gone. I probably left Logan Square like in my early 20s, and then just lived all over the city of Chicago. But when I would come back, I would see this change.
Yeah.
What
was that like to see the change?
At first, it feels like parts of your childhood, of your memory, have just been washed away. Mm-hmm. You feel a little bit angry that people that you didn't grow up with or that are from the same cultural background of what you grew up with are no longer the majority of that neighborhood, and they're getting the benefits of now what that neighborhood is. Yeah. You feel angry that, that the reason why your friends ain't there anymore is because they can't afford it. So all of those things is what you feel. So I think when people go out there and they see and they're like, oh man, it's changed, it's beautiful, it's all this good stuff. I mean, that's cool. And it was all those things before too.
For sure.
I mean, it was really beautiful, and there was a sense of community there, and all of that. But unfortunately, for all of these economic gains to happen, the people that were there that helped establish that neighborhood, can no longer take advantage of that.
Yeah. Is there something that you wanted to change growing up? Something that you saw, whether that be like from within you, within like your experience, or what was going on in the world? Anything that would come to mind?
There's a lot of things I want to change, bro. There's a lot of things I wanted to change back then.
Yeah.
I wanted to change cops. I wanted to change gangs. I wanted to change families at certain points. I wanted to change the hood. I wanted to see it grow and prosper. I wanted to change the world. Something specific though. I mean, like something where I was just kind of like, damn, like this thing right here is what needs to change. I think it had to be just the way that people were treating each other because of the way that they had been treated. So because a person had, a rough life, oftentimes when they would encounter a situation, it was always with that same aggressive attitude.
Yeah.
If somebody robs me, I gotta rob them, or I gotta rob somebody else, and it always just continued that cycle, right? If somebody got shot in the hood, you gotta shoot the other person, but then it's just kind of like a he said, she said of what, like, who shot who first and when is it gonna end, you know? And at some point that cycle got to break. I think that's what I would probably change.
Yeah. What were some moments in your life where like you had to stand up for yourself? Did you ever have a moment where you were just like, this is what I believe and I stand on that?
Yeah. Especially in Chicago, because Chicago's always gonna test you. And if you really care about something, Chicago will let you know that you actually really cared about it based on the reaction that you didn't even know that you had in you.
Yeah.
When I was a shorty, definitely, there was other shorties that wanted to test you. But if you're talking about something like politically, like social, like, all right, I like this is what I gotta.
Not necessarily. No, like anything that you wanted to change. Yeah.
I had these homies that I grew up with, and the way that they would just talk about women was, in a very machista way.
Yeah.
Very derogatory, bitches and hoes and all this other stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so, but these would be the same homies that I grew up with, the same homies that would have my back if something went down, and I had to stand up to them and say, I'm not down with the way that this is the way y'all talk about that, and I lost those homies.
Yeah.
You don't kick at them anymore. But it was definitely, I remember, a moment, a milestone in my life where I was like, at some point, this behavior or this way of thinking, I can't tolerate it.
Yeah.
I can't at least be quiet about it.
No,
you
for
know
sure.
what I'm saying?
For sure. I mean, that happened to me, even in the family, talking about racism, right? Like standing on that and being like, yo, I can't hang with this.
Yeah, man.
And then the ramifications of doing that. But
yeah.
How did that make you feel though? Like to lose all those friends all of a sudden? And the other thing is that happened to me is recently decided to get sober, and then figuring out like who your real friends are after you get sober, right? You start figuring out that a lot of the friendships that you had were very superficial.
Yeah.
But yeah, how did it feel to lose, like at a young age, right? Because
youngish, 20s, man. I couldn't tell you exactly when, but it was like early 20s.
Okay.
Also, that's the same age that I start to become a little bit more woke, as people would say now. But I said just conscious, as woke up. You know what I'm saying? But I felt, man, I didn't really feel. It was just kind of like all right, peace. I don't know if it was like hurt. I think I felt good about what I felt was right and true. I think that I was outgrowing people anyway, man. You know what I'm saying? So like it wasn't like, oh man, I'm sad, I don't got my homies, you know what I'm saying? It wasn't like that. It was just kind of like, all right, that's what y'all on. I feel like, we're just gonna grow apart, go separate, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure. You were staying with your grandmother and your grandfather, right? First off, like, give them kind of flowers, man. What was that like? Man. What was that like, bro? Like, how did they love you? You know what I'm saying?
Oh man, it was unconditional, man. My grandmother was the rock and she was the hard ass. She wasn't definitely like the stereotypical sweet grandma. But I think for most For most people of Latin American heritage, their grandmothers are not necessarily the sweet grandmothers. A lot of them, they're rough, they're tough, they're good women, but they love you unconditionally, and they're solid. And so she was that. And my grandfather was like the more creative, like jokingly, like, I'm gonna sneak in this little, I had this little soda or whatever, you know what I'm saying? My grandfather was the one I was probably closer to, just in terms of like somebody that I connected with on that level. But he passed away when I was 8. And so that really affected me, because it was just me and my grandmother from then until I was like 18 and I moved out. Man, that was I bless the gods every day that they were the ones who raised me, even though that like ultimately their foundational beliefs, like in religion, and in gender and things like that, are not things that I carried over, thank God. But I feel that they instilled in me this value of family, of life, of understanding, of recognizing your wrongs, and all of that. You know what I'm saying?
What was it like to lose your grandfather at a young age, man?
I mean, it was tough, bro.
Because at that age, you're just like, you're invincible.
Yeah,
you know, and so you get to see something like that, and it's just like,
it's wild.
Yeah,
it's wild, man. Man, it was rough.
And you're kind of like the jokester.
The
I would say
class
that
clown.
Like, the way that you would describe your grandfather in this short period, like I would say that you have a lot of that in you.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope that I carried a lot of what his personality was, because he was a very charming cat.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying. So I hope so. Very loving, very loving. He was, to me, he was Papi. He was my father. And so, it's just like losing your father at the age of 8.
Yeah.
You kind of lost, the house feels a little bit more empty. All of that.
How did you like grow into your manhood? Having like
shit, man,
the lack of the male energy, right? Because I grew up without a dad.
Yeah,
I mean, my dad came in and out, and so my mom was the one that was like constantly telling me what a man is. And I had an uncle that definitely helped and keeps me accountable even today, man. That brother will chin check me in a second and just be like, you're not doing what you need to be doing right now. And it hasn't happened in a while, so that's great. But yeah, what was it like, especially during that time? So we're kind of the same age, right? So that was like 88, 89.
Yeah, 89. Yeah.
Right. And so wild periods, man, where you lived.
I mean,
then you didn't. You lost that energy, that male energy.
Yeah.
What was it like to assume that? For me, it's been like a learning curve, right? Like I'm constantly learning what a good man is like.
Yeah, man. Yeah. And I don't think you ever stop. You never stop learning what a good person is like, what a good human is like. You know what I'm saying? I think that you got to be the type of person, not just you, right? Us, we got to be the type of people that is always willing to accept that we're going to commit wrong and that we're always learning, that the learning don't stop, to becoming a better human, becoming a better father, becoming all of that, but the father figure will always be there. It'll just be in different forms if your father ain't there, right? So for us, I think, I know for me, at least growing up in Logan Square, it was the local gang members, because they're the ones that are older. They kind of give this aura of power, right? Everybody kind of looks up to them. They get all the girls. And so, they oftentimes take that place of a father figure, which unfortunately is the reason why a lot of young people want to join the gangs in the first place, right? Is because they're seeing that. But I feel like I quickly rolled out of that. I feel like, okay, but y'all are treating each other like shit, and you're killing people that look like us, and I understand this whole like protect the hood mentality, and that's cool. But ultimately, at the end, y'all killing each other, which means you're killing my people. So I can't ride like that, just like I can't ride with the cops. You know what I'm saying? But so yeah, I think that that was after that, I don't know, man, you just figure it out, bro.
Yeah.
Which I think is part of the steps of becoming a man too, bro. Is that like, you don't got that guide or that net, and you got to kind of figure it out. And then sometimes you fall, you know what I'm saying? And then, how are you going to react to that?
Yeah. And you said that you were the class clown?
Oh, most definitely, bro.
Yeah.
That
So
was-
you were the person that the teacher hated to have, or did you make the teachers laugh? Like, what was your relationship like with your teachers?
Nah, it was the teachers hated me, man, and I don't blame them. I don't blame them. There was probably like one that was like, I get it, bro, but I think the rest were just kind of like, man, you suck, bro. Always talking shit. Just out there riling up the class. The teacher having to like, because you educated too.
Yeah.
So now you gotta like regroup the class because this stupid kid is saying some fart joke. You know what I'm saying? But yeah. I was definitely that. I wish that I would have controlled that. I had an outlet for that, and there were different moments where I had an outlet for that. And I was able to like exude that and be that. But for the most part, you're growing up in public school in the Chicago in the 80s and 90s. That stuff is, not only frowned upon, but disciplined. You're taught not to do that. You're taught to suppress that. There really wasn't okay, you're cool. You like to act or you like to like be a clown. Come do this. You know what I'm saying? Nah, it was never encouraged. Yeah. Both, with a grandmother, with grandparents who like, you gotta stop that into the school.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. So let's go into, how did you fall in love with hip hop and poetry and why? Like, I know that when we met, we were vibing on some hip hop,
yeah, man.
and then all of a sudden, I stopped working at the museum and I saw you flourish as far as a poet.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that, man. Yeah. Hip hop when we were growing up was the music, bro, for the inner city, man. That's what we were listening to. Mm-hmm. That's what our elders that we looked up to listen to. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? It was, and we were at such an influential age during the golden age of hip hop, where we were hearing the masters spitting and not even realizing it. That was just part of our music. That was just what we had, also what we had access to. So, that is not to say that every inner city kid gravitated to hip hop, but man, the vast majority did. And we were bumping it and we were listening to it. And we wanted to imitate it. You know what I'm saying? We wanted to be those cats. And so there was different elements of hip hop. Me being a loud mouth, I gravitated toward the lyrics and toward the rapping. And so I would write rhymes, bro. Just stupid little rhymes to rhyme with the friends. You know what I'm saying? Nothing ever serious. But I think that like where I started to develop in poetry was when I started, and this is probably early 20s. I started going to these open mics by like the Bate Urbano and other random spots and all of that. Shout out to the Bate Urbano. And I would see these poets. Mm-hmm. And these poets were up there, it wasn't hip hop, but they were rhyming, and sometimes they weren't, and they were flowing. It wasn't the poetry that I was, taught in school. I was like, oh, this is poetry?
Yeah.
More than that, right? Spoken word. And they were doing it. And I was amazed. And I was like, damn, that's what I want to do. I felt like I was already doing that.
Yeah.
I felt like the rhyming that I was doing, the way that I was flowing with it, was closer to that. Yeah. And I started from there. I started writing.
Man, so once you started falling in love with poetry, right? Mm-hmm. And you were working a job. When did you decide that you were going to dive into just being a poet? And how did you do it? And like, what reinforced you? What kind of fought against you? Because you've obviously chosen the
broke life.
Not broke life, bro. I don't know financially, but what I do see is that the artistic life. Mm-hmm. There are trade-offs. Some people may envy a life like the one that you're leading, right? You're saying that you're going to Puerto Rico soon. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, my brother.
And so how many people could just be like, yo, I'm going to Puerto Rico, right? And so I think that there are a lot of benefits to the lifestyle that you lead. How did you come to terms with the fact that you weren't going to do a 9 to 5? You weren't going to do what everybody else was going to do. Maybe some, like, I talk about it in my other podcast. It's just like I became a teacher, right? Sometimes I think I became a teacher because I was scared to be an artist. I was scared to like 100% dedicate myself to it. And I just saw everybody in the hood and everybody that was like kind of bettering themselves was doing it through college.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, yo, I think I got to go to college and I want to make my mom proud. And so, you know, but there's a point where it's just like, man, what if I would have, you know, given it 100 when I had that freedom to be able to do that? And so you did it, right?
Yeah, man.
But there was a decision that you needed to make where you were just like, yo, I'm going to lead this life. What were those decisions like and how did you make them and when?
Man, poetry chose me, bro. You know what I'm saying? I think first and foremost, I think it gripped me, and I, for many years, because I was trying to go a little bit more of the traditional route, rejected that grip, even though I continued doing it, you know? But I gradually, especially during my late 20s, started to make money off of little gigs here and there. You know what I'm saying? And I had this addiction to open mics and to performing and to doing that. I started to get involved in the scene with other poets and other artists that were doing it as well. You know what I'm saying? And I started to see how some of them were able to kind of like half make it in the sense of that, like, yeah, they were still doing their 9 to 5, but they were doing this more consistently on the side. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It was like supplemental.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? It was more than just a hobby, more than just, and I was just like, damn, so like I can do this, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. But I would say that like the miles, the actual moment, like the definitive moment where I was like, all right, I'm gonna jump into this head first and fuck it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Was I used to work for now he's a congressman. And when I was working for him, he was a Cook County commissioner.
Yeah.
And I was working for him for 4 years as politician. He goes to me, bro. After 4 years, he's having a sit down with all of his staff members, right? There's like about 4 of us individually. And he takes me out to lunch, right? My favorite cafe. And he goes to me, you know, where do you see yourself in 10 years? And I look at him and I say, you know, I see myself getting back into the arts. You know, I was done being in government. It wasn't for me. I was proud of the work I did in there, but I was like, I'm going back to the arts. And he goes, yeah, me too. I see you there real soon.
Nice.
Swear to you,
And
bro.
now he's a U.S. congressman.
And so then he was like, you know, he was like, he gave me the whole spiel. I think basically what he was based on what my answer I was gonna give him for that question, was gonna determine whether or not I was gonna keep working for there. Because he was like, yo, you see yourself in the arts, go do that. Like, why are you here? Yeah. Like, you're taking the space of somebody who does plan to be here for a very long time. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Everybody else that I was rocking with there was planning. That was their trajectory. Yeah. It wasn't mine. And he knew. You know what I'm saying? He knew. You know, and bless him, because that push was just kind of like, what do I do? And I got offers from other political offices and all of that other stuff. But I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go dive deep. I had some money saved up. Yeah. You know, and I used that. My kid was about a year old at the time. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So, I was like, damn, right now I actually have the time to do 2 things. And that is be with my kid, right? Because his mom still had 9 to 5, so I'd be taking him, and focus on my art. Yeah. And I gave myself this time limit. And I was surprised that I was able to get booked and to create and to have people invest in me for that, and started off that first, you know, rocky road. But I think that, like, you know, for anybody that is familiar with this business, then you already know what I'm about to say next. But for people that may not be, are kind of like, well, how does he do it? Or how can one do it? Unless you're a superstar, I ain't just writing poetry. Yeah. Like, I'm not making all my living just off of selling books. You know, there's workshops. There's being a part of poetry organizations in which you have to get grants and scholarships for that help sustain you. So there is no true steady income you always got to be hungry and always have to write for your money. So like whether that be a grant, whether that be you're going to be teaching for a little bit, whether that be you are going to be selling books or you're going to be booked for poems, all of that gets involved.
Yeah.
You know, it's not, you just are not purely doing the craft. I mean, that would be great too, but there's a lot of other things that you do that are part of the craft.
Yeah.
That for a financial view of it that you got to do. So I'm not just out there spitting poems, right? Like I'm teaching through the Chicago Poetry Center. I'm going to be teaching in Pilsen upcoming, you know, and you know, I give these mural tours too that also supplements everything else. And I got people booking me for performances. So all of these things is the way to do it. And I think I had to figure that out. I didn't realize that at first. It took me about a couple years, you know, to be like, wow, you know. And I had a bunch of other side gigs that I was doing to supplement things. But then eventually, I started getting these big grants, and I started well, for me they're big, you know what I'm saying? But I started,
they're big, bro.
I mean, you know, I started getting these thousands of dollars for people to be like, yo, all right, then produce this project. And then I produced the project, and they'd be like, okay, cool. What's the next thing now? You know, because a project, you know, a theater project, whatever you do the whole show, maybe you get paid enough for 6 months, but you can't wait till those 6 months are over to decide what am I going to do next?
Yeah.
Because it's going to take you 6 months to get that money.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's just constantly, always just on there, fighting and writing for the money.
And so when you decided to dive in, to be an artist, have you ever dealt with like an agent or anything like that? Or you're pretty much self-sufficient, like you do that yourself? You
know, no agent, like, and maybe this is not a knock on agents or anything like that. I think maybe, you know, they can be very, very helpful. I think that for what I was doing okay without an agent, but I would say that I had agencies. Yeah. So like I mentioned earlier, the Chicago Poetry Center. So I would consider them to be like my agent, you know, in that they would recommend me for workshops, and recommend me for certain performances, right? And they would take a little bit of a cut. So yeah, I would say that they were like one of my agents.
Yeah, like a representative.
Yeah, you know, in that, yeah. The Segundo Ruiz Belvis Cultural Center, which is the oldest Puerto Rican cultural center in the city of Chicago. You know, they would recommend me for gigs. They would sponsor me for certain projects like Raíces to Roots, or like this trip to Puerto Rico.
Yeah, that was dope, man. Yeah, you went to Puerto Rico. That looked really dope.
Thank you, bro.
Even the pictures that you were taking, I was just bro, that looks beautiful, bro.
Man, bro, you know what I'm saying, G? I'm just kind of like, man, I'll be jealous of myself sometimes. I'll be like, man, this is live, man.
And we in this type of weather, and I'm looking at pictures like that, yo, I'm like, bro, this dude.
You know what I'm saying, G? I'm about to be there. Yeah, but I feel like, you know, like it took me years to like be like, okay, how can I figure out how to be in Puerto Rico for the month of January? Yeah. You know, like, how can I figure that out? You know what I'm saying? And it's mad connections, and I got to write for that money, you know? But yeah.
You're an incredible host.
Thank you.
You know what I'm saying? Like, bro, you be hosting. Yeah. You're official. I've seen you on stages, and I'm just like, damn, this dude is. Like you could tell what's happening because I know what's going on in the show. Yeah. And I know that act is not trying to get up there right away. So you kind of up there. Yeah. And you like make it work, bro. You make it work,
bro. Thank you, bro.
And I'm just like, I see you, bro. I see you.
Because sometimes I'm like, man, I hope y'all are digging this because we about to be here for another 5 minutes. Yeah. While this diva gets ready, or Devo, whatever it is, man.
Yeah. Was there ever a time where you like faced like crazy adversity and you were like, damn, it got real hard?
Yeah, man, several times in my life, man. Even before like I got to the artistic point, you know what I'm saying? Homies getting shot, in the streets, having to be run home, but also like, man, I'm not the pandemic.
Yeah, how did that affect you, bro?
Bro, I lost mad money. You know, I think that like the number one adversity that I had to get over was imposter syndrome, was me thinking that I wasn't good enough to do what I wanted to do, and I should say hitting a wall and then being like, damn, you know, I'm not going to get over this. You have to be your biggest fan. You got to believe in you first before anybody else does. Because if you don't believe in you first, ain't nobody gonna invest in you. And so you're going to fail. That is a given.
Yeah.
To expect that you're gonna succeed at everything that you do is probably you're gonna fail more than you succeed, bro. You know what I'm saying? But those celebrations, all of those achievements are gonna outweigh all the failures. But those come later. So you got to believe in yourself first. That even you hit that wall, you keep going. Nobody's really gonna tell you the formula for getting over that wall. Nobody's ever going to really say, because whatever they did is going to work for them, but you will figure it out. You just got to believe that you will figure it out and keep the faith and keep going. And eventually, boom, you're going to be boom. You know what I'm saying? That's the number one, is you got to be your biggest fan and you got to believe through yourself always.
Yeah. What's your writing process like? I know that we were talking about this couple of times, right? It's just like when I got sober, it was a little hard to write, and
yeah, man.
And it was just like it was easy to write when you had substances that would help you in that, like mellow out and just like get ready to get into the creative process. There were several times growing up where it was just like shut off all the lights, put spotlights on a canvas, get nice, and then just like. And then you would finish the painting, and it would feel like the perfect puzzle piece, and you would know that it was just like it was perfect. There was nothing more that you could do. You can't take anything away. You can't put anything more. Like it's perfect. When I was rhyming, the same thing, right? Or producing music, it was the same thing. It was just like you had this, like you clicked. It clicked. It was just like it was perfect. You knew that there was nothing that you could do to it. And then when I became sober, it was a little harder to get, to a point where it's like you felt like it was perfect. And the only way that I can describe it is like it feels like tingly in your body, and it feels like you're connected to a higher being. You're connected to a higher self. You're either connected to the universe. You could say you're connected to God, whatever it might be, but you're connected to something bigger than you, and it's that it's the perfect stroke for that painting or for that rhyme. And so getting sober, I had to figure out how to do that sober.
Yeah, man.
And I was able to do that. I'm able to do that now, producing, I'm DJing now. I'm able to do it writing. I'm really excited. What's your writing process like, man? Like, how do you get it done? And one thing that you did that really helped me out, but you'll probably explain it again, is you were just like, bro, I just sit there. And I'm like, well, I got kids, they got to go to sleep. And it's just like, it's hard to just sit there. But that clarity that you gave me at that point was perfect for what I needed to hear to get over that imposter syndrome that you're talking about. Like I had to get over it. I had to just be like, look, you're not drinking no more. You're going to do this. It's going to connect. You got to meditate. You got to like really concentrate, feel it. And it's not like instant anymore. You have to do it. You have to put yourself in that mind state. So how do you do it?
Well, definitely the process has changed over the years from when I was younger and on kind of the same tip you were, using all type of substances to get down. And that was okay then. You know what I'm saying? Because it opened my mind. But I think that once you start taking it to like a business type level, you got to treat it like work. You know what I'm saying? It's fun, but you got to give it the same attention and time that you would do with anything that you care for, anything that you're trying to make money off of, if you want it to be good. And back in the day, we always waited for inspiration to hit us. And then, okay, inspiration's hit me. Now I'm going to go ahead and write. Yeah. And we don't necessarily have those same luxuries right now because family, kids, life. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we moving and shaking. There's things that have their time slots. And you got to give that its time slot too. So for me, and I think this is for everybody, but for me, it's like, all right, these 2 hours, I may write a paragraph, but these 2 hours I'm going to give to writing. And that might be sitting in front of my computer, sitting with my notebook and pen, and then just looking and just staring at it for minutes. in reality, bro, like if you do give yourself that time, after 5-10 minutes, you're gonna be flowing. You're gonna be flowing with something. You know what I'm saying? You'll get to your process there. But also to recognize that you're not supposed to write something new every time. You write something and then you got to come back to it, and not come back to it 5 minutes later. You got to come back to it the next day or a couple days later. It has to sit with you. You wrote something and it was cool right then and there, and you may be pumping out the adrenaline, but that's not where the work stops. Mm-hmm. You got to come back to that second, third draft and be like, all right, I want to change this word. I want to change that word. The pressure oftentimes comes when we think that we got to come out with perfection the moment we sit down. And that's not it. Perfection is chiseled, and it's going to come 2 or 3 more sessions later. If you think that in 1-2 hour session, you're going to come out with a chiseled poem, no, I can't do that. I don't know many people who do. But you come out with a skeleton, and then you just start dressing it. But it all starts with you giving that space, giving that honor to that craft by saying, I'm going to give you 2 hours or an hour or 3 hours of my life today. And we're going to sit here and we're going to jot things down. And for this time, this is what's going to happen. Yeah, man, that's my process now.
And you sound like your teacher, because we were talking about that earlier or the other day. You were just like, man, my teacher was on something when she was talking about 3 drafts.
Yeah, it's just true. It's true, I mean, this idea, even though like I have my own issues with academia, but this process of a draft, of a second draft, of a third draft, just this idea of revising your work, of giving it space, letting it breathe, and then revisiting it, that idea is very important with anything that you do.
Yeah.
If you think you're gonna come out with the masterpiece the first time, that's not how it works, bro. This ain't pop music where these people putting whatever they want together. You know what I'm saying? Just because it sounds pretty and then it gets forgetted in like a day.
Yeah.
But yeah, man.
Yeah. How do you balance your life, being a father, still creating music, poetry, and your personal life, like? Because we're talking about those times,
bro,
right? Like,
I don't know. Can you help me? Can you tell me, bro? I mean, like, I might have some of the professional stuff down, but the personal life, that's always a jumble, my guy. I think it's routine, bro.
Yeah.
I think once you set yourself into a routine, and for me at least, because, man, before all of that, everything was everywhere. But once you know what to expect and what is going to take up that time in the day, then you can do what is probably the most important thing in creating art. You can prep.
Yeah.
Because now you could prep for what the expectation is going to be. And life's going to throw you curveballs, right? But if you prep, at least you have a basic plan of what's supposed to go down. And then you adjust accordingly, because that's what life is going to do to you. You know what I'm saying? But I think that like that was it for me, was that like these 2 hours I'm going to write. This time I'm going to pick up my kid and I'm going to stay with them for this time. This time I'm going to go to sleep, so that way I'm prepping so that I could wake up early and I could go for a run. You know what I'm saying?
Man.
But yeah, man, I think for me, the way to balance things was through routine. Now, as far as like love and emotions and things like that, and you know what I'm saying, that's always, for me at least, and being in the artist realm, is going to be up to the fate of the gods. I'll let them handle that. But if I take charge of my own time and give space for everything that I need to, that I already know, you already know what you need to, you got to take care of your kid, you got to make rent, you got to produce. So those things need time carved out, and they need their space.
And what time do you usually write? Like when do you set that time out to like write?
I try to do it in the mornings. 10 a.m. Oh yeah, bro, wow. Get it out. Okay. Because if this is what I want to do, so the way that I do it is that like I prioritize the hours. I do first what I want, what is the biggest priority first in my craft, my art, right? Mm-hmm. It's not like after I'm done doing everything else. It's just kind of like
interesting way to think about it.
Yeah, dude, that's I want to be a good, yeah, it's first. Now, sometimes it's writing, sometimes it's reading. Right. But for the most part, it's like I knock out writing first. Actually, that's a lie. 3 days out of the week, the very first thing I do is exercise. because it gets the blood flowing and I knock it out, right? Shower, and then now my blood's flowing. Next thing I do is going to be writing. And then the next thing after that, well, I don't know, man. It might be lunch, right? Because what I usually do is have some type of like, I call it like a physical type of barrier between the next thing that I need to wrap my head around. So if I'm in the brain set for 2 hours of writing and I got to write grants next, then I'm going to take a lunch break. And then now I'm going to prepare myself for the next change, the next transition, right?
Yeah. So you talked about Istanbul, bro. What was that like?
My guy, Istanbul was a dream, bro. I mean, you know, you're on a side of the world that had one of the oldest civilizations on earth. You know, I'm talking about, I was in areas where some of the oldest markets were in the world and still functioning, my guy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
People that have just been on that their blood has been on that earth for who knows how many thousands of years, as well as, you know, new people, because Istanbul is an international city, so you got people from all over the world coming there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I had never been to a city where you heard the call for prayer, you know what I'm saying, several times a day.
Yeah.
You just heard it, bro, and it does something to you, my guy. It just does something to you, even if I'm not Muslim, right? But to hear that people were carving out times in their day to pray, and they stopped, bro. They said, fuck capitalism. You know what I'm saying? We ain't gonna do business right now.
Yeah.
For this amount of time, we're gonna take our time. We're gonna stop. You know what I'm saying? The world's gonna stop for a little bit while we give this to God. So that was really beautiful. My guy, the food out there is amazing, bro. I had to learn some of that stuff in Turkish, bro. Rice I just learned is pilaf. So I'll be like, let me get some tauk and some pilaf. You know, and with some kebab and who knows whatever else they were feeding out there, lentils, and man, bro, I mean, I can go on and on about the food, bro. I hear my stomach growling right now, man. Straight up, Jeep. Yeah, man, Istanbul was a dream, bro.
What were you doing out there?
Living life, man. Checking it out. That was priority number one, but also I featured at an open mic. The only English open mic that they got in Istanbul called Spoken Word Istanbul. Shout out to Spoken Word Istanbul. I featured out there. I spit some poems to homies out there. And
I saw the videos, man. They look dope, bro.
Thank you, bro. Thank you. It was fly, dude. The last night that I was in Istanbul, I was lucky enough to be part of a jam session. Just a jam session, bro. Just people coming in there and throwing down and playing music and all the other stuff. And I got up there and started spitting. You know, I did a little bit of a rapper's delight and my own little thing in Spanish. So, and that was, you know, bro, like the craziest thing about Istanbul, and maybe I'll just end talking about Istanbul here, is that like, you're in one of the oldest parts of the world, and you feel that and you get that, and you go to these places, but also that city today is doing things, right? And it's like you also gotta go see what are people doing right now in Istanbul. You know what I'm saying? They ain't racing chariots right now. That was thing that they're doing thousands of years ago. That's not what they're on right now. What are they doing right now?
Yeah.
You know? And so to get both of those sides of that city, of seeing like, you know, things that were remnants of thousands of years ago and seeing what the people are doing right now today was really beautiful, bro.
And then you also do you still do Pilsen Mural Tours?
That's my business, bro. Yeah, I give tours of the murals in Pilsen.
Bro, so break that down, dude. What you doing?
Man, so
you have a nice jacket back there, bro. That jacket is official.
Yeah, dude.
Embroidered y todo, bro. Watch out.
Coming up. You know, I started giving tours of the murals in Pilsen through the Pilsen Mural Tours that was owned and run by Jose Guerrero, a muralist who passed away a few years ago. His wife, Margaret Guerrero, she left me the business, and then I took it over from there. I live in Pilsen, and so I'm personally connected to the murals that are there, and that's what I do, is that I talk about the artwork that's on the walls, and I've been blessed that the business is growing. It's been growing every single year. And I'll be this year, 2023. is when I will be, I guess by the time this podcast airs, I would have already given several tours that are fundraisers for local organizations. I'll be doing once a month. I already helped raise some money for the Pilsen Pantry, as well as Pilsen Arts and Community House. Both sold out tours. So look out for that.
What's your favorite mural in
Man, don't ask me that, bro.
I'm
Why
just
you gonna
saying, I'm curious. Or all right, if you don't have you don't have to say a top one, but what are a couple where you're just you're like, damn.
Man, it really depends on the mood and the phase that I'm on right now. I'm always partial to graffiti because where I grew up. But the one that I'm kind of feeling right now is this piece, which, oh man, the title escapes me right now. But it's done by the artist Matter, M-A-T-R. Shout out to Matter. And it is inspired by a photograph from a photographer whose last name is Mejia, in which it has this person dressed in traditional indigenous garb, but also with their face painted like a skeleton. But the pose that they're in, it's probably about chest up, is this pose of gratitude, this pose of thanks, this pose of giving yourself to God or to the gods and saying thank you for everything that I have right now. And that is right on Coyotes Taqueria on the corner of 18th Street and Laughlin. So that is 1 block east of Ashland.
You doing it, man. And I see you on the slam tours and the slam circuit too. Real quick, what's that like, bro? The slams.
I mean, right now, I wouldn't say that I slam as much as I used to. I represented Chicago twice in 2014 and 2018 at the National Poetry Slam. And I've done several slams and all that other stuff. But right now, I'm part of an organization called Slam Diaspora. And what that does is that it works to focus on creative writing amongst Latinos here in the U.S. So it's specifically for people of Latin American background that are living here in the U.S. And we do these slams in which people compete, and 80% of the poem must be in Spanish.
Nice.
As a way to foster this creative writing in Spanish, man. And so, one of our winners from the slams, the competition, and one of the winners of the competition represented us in Brazil at the Slam Abajala, which is basically Slam of the Americas.
Nice.
Out in Brazil this last December. So shout out to Diosa for representing us and at Slam Diaspora. It's been 3 years growing, and we hope that it continues to grow from there. So make sure you check that out. It's Slam Diaspora. You could find that on all the social media. Ain't no website on that right now, but on Facebook and Instagram.
And then how do you distinguish writing a slam poem from writing a regular poem? Or not a regular, but like a poem? Like, do you distinguish them?
Because, slam poetry is going to be a little bit more performative. And slam poetry, traditionally, you're going to talk a little bit more about social political stuff, because that's the stuff that's going to bleed through, or stuff that, is very impactful on folks. So, a lot of the themes that you're going to hear have to do with, immigration, Black Lives Matter, gender, all of that. Are things that you're going to hear a lot in slam poems. So when you're writing a slam poem, and I know that I'm in the mindset of writing a slam poem, there's definitely a structure that I go through. There's definitely things that I want to make sure I hit. There's a length that I'm always trying to reach, which is about 3 minutes. Now, if I'm just writing poems, then whatever, right? I'm writing just whatever the hell comes out in whatever way I want to write. You know what I'm saying? But right now, what I'm doing mostly is using my writings for theater and for music, and those are the things that I'm working on the most.
And do you ever find any subjects cliche?
Craft or the trick or the game or the art is how you're gonna do it so it's fresh. There ain't no new things. Everything has already been done before. We're just building and reshaping it. And so, all the political themes. People are always going to be talking about gender and immigration and Black Lives Matter, but how are you going to twist it? How are you going to shape it? What part of the story are you going to tell that people haven't heard before? Because there's definitely that.
Word. If you could give a kid any advice, like, and I'm talking about like, it could be somebody that's in college, it could be somebody like a little kid, right? Like that's loving poetry. What would you encourage them to do? Or, if you could talk to yourself, let's say, if you could talk to yourself as a little kid, what would you tell yourself to get a head start?
And I already said it, but I think I gotta say it again, and just to reinforce it. And that is that you gotta believe in yourself first, and you gotta keep going, no matter if you think you failed. Failure are just steps to success. So accept that you will fail and keep going and believe in yourself, because no one else is going to. You're going to have people you love that are going to say, stop doing that, or belittle you for it, or try to persuade you in a different direction. You got to stay strong, because if you feel it in your heart and your soul and you know it's what you're supposed to do, then you got to keep doing it through the failures. Yeah.
And then what do you wish to leave with your poetry? Like what is your legacy, or what are you working your legacy towards?
I don't know, man. Maybe people who hear my poetry will, be making some babies to it. You know what I'm saying? What's up? No, man, I just want to be able to record the feelings and the emotions that I'm trying to capture through talking about certain moments in time in history. I don't want to just give you dates, which ain't nothing wrong with that, but I just don't want to be like, these are the facts. I want to let you know what it was like to feel, what it was like to be part of that moment. Though that's what I want you to walk away with when you listen or read my poetry.
Yeah, man. Anything else that you would want to share with people? You know what I'm saying? Like,
yo, man. Thank you so much, Jesus.
No, for sure, bro.
Thank you, bro.
Always had a good vibe, bro. And the conversations that we've had before you came on the podcast were really, really great. Oh yeah, and we didn't even talk about you being a musician, bro. Like, you part of ESSO. That song.
Izquierda, maybe?
Mundo Vale.
Yeah.
Man, bro, that's a jam. That's a jam.
You,
the remix is great, bro.
Yeah, thank you, bro.
You snapped on that, man.
Thank you.
That's like my favorite ESSO song.
Stop, dude. You're just saying that shit because I'm here, man.
Check out Mondo's, like Mondo's interview. That's what I used.
Uh-huh.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's one of the jams, man.
Thank you, bro.
I love when they play that joint.
But
yeah, dude. Just real quick, how did you get involved with like being a musician and being a poet?
Man, it's figuring out how to use poetry in different ways. That's what it was. You know what I'm saying? Playing with it. You know what I'm saying? And also, later realizing that like, oh, these are different income avenues. But at its core, at the first, it was just kind of like, yo, I love music. What would it sound like to music? I like theater. Let me see what poetry is, mixed it with some theater. Yeah. You know what I'm playing with it, my guy. It's Play-Doh and play. I mean, you got some people that are like, no, poetry is poetry, supposed to do this, and that's cool and that's all love. You know what I'm saying? But like,
we're supposed to light incense and light candles and just
play the bongos, and which is cool, which is dope. You know what I'm saying? That ain't nothing wrong with that. But
yeah,
at the same time, I wanted to explore. I wanted to see these different ways of using poetry, which I think Latin America is beautiful at doing. Yeah, man. I mean, basically, Mondo was like, "Yo, I'm a fan of your poetry. Come spit on this." On this music, and I was like, yeah, let's do that. And then from there, we collabed on a lot of different things, and I became part of ESSO and was fortunate enough to tour with them a couple times in the States and a couple times in Mexico.
Yeah, That's what's up, man.
Yeah, man.
Where can people reach you? Like, if somebody wants to connect with you, if somebody wants a Pilsen Mural Tour, or they wanna have a fresh poet You know what I'm saying? Or like an incredible host for their event. You know what I'm saying? Like
yeah, man. Check me out at loganlupoetry.com. loganlupoetry.com. Lu spelled Lu. You'll find connection to all my information as a poet, as an MC, as a workshopper, but also ppat.space, ppat.space for more information about the mural tours.
That's what's up, man. Well, thank you very much, bro, for making it out to the 500 and growing, man. I appreciate everything that you shared. I think that I admire the fact that, you know, you're grinding and you're doing incredible things, you know what I'm saying? And I'm seeing you in Istanbul. I'm seeing you
G.
In like these interesting white clothes in Puerto Rico, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, G. Yeah.
You're doing it, man. And I see you on the slam tours and the slam circuit too. All right. So everybody, thank you first. Thank you very much for making it to the 500 and Growing podcast. Again, this is Luis Tubens, also known as Logan Lu. And thank you very much, brother.
Yes, thank you, bro. Thank you.
500 and growing.
Podcast.
Visit 500andgrowing.com for more creative content.
Ready to set it off and on, cause I see. Correcting all that is wrong, cause I see you. Dedicated to your craft, read and study the math. Making goals and taking a stand. Original, so you trailblaze a path. In tune with your inner master plan.
Thank you for listening to the 500 and Growing podcast. Please like, share, and subscribe. We have incredible guests lined up that will be sharing how they came to be extraordinary at whatever they do. And stay tuned. Follow at 500 and Growing podcast on Instagram for updates. And also visit 500andgrowing.com for more creative content.